The lost women warriors, drift into the arena. Hey guys, tonight we're settling into one of those very niche corners of history that somehow feels both dramatic and deeply soothing when told in a monotone voice at 1 in the morning. So, if you're cozy, lying down, or maybe just staring at the ceiling while contemplating the questionable life choices of ancient civilizations, then welcome back. Tonight, we begin with a story that's rarely told. It's about the women who stepped into the sand of the Roman arena, yes, women, the female gladiators the Romans called gladiatrices. They were rare. They were controversial. And their existence annoyed enough senators that the government eventually banned them outright. Because, of course they did. It wouldn't be ancient Rome without someone passing a very dramatic law at 4 in the morning to stop other people from having fun. But before we float into the specifics, the fights, the training, the social weirdness, the aftermath, let's set the tone. Take a breath. Relax your shoulders. And let's drift slowly backward in time, into a dusty amphitheater that smells faintly of olive oil, sweat, and questionable hygiene practices. A quiet entrance into the arena. Picture a calm night in the Roman Empire. No roaring crowds yet, just the distant hum of a city that never really learned the meaning of quiet hours. Rome at its peak had around 1 million residents, which, for the ancient world, was basically the equivalent of cramming a modern megacity into a place with zero plumbing regulations. But somewhere just off the main streets, the local amphitheater sleeps peacefully. Inside, the sand is raked smooth. Torches flicker against stone walls. And the arena floor is empty, except for a training instructor who probably hasn't slept in 2 days and a group of trainees trying to figure out how not to die in the ring. Among them, every now and then, stood a woman. Not many, because Rome wasn't exactly known for its progressive hiring practices, but enough that historians keep discovering clues. Inscriptions, artwork, legal restrictions, souvenir carvings, and one extremely dramatic bronze relief that basically shouts. Yes, women fought as gladiators. Please calm down. But let's drift gently into their world, who they were, how they ended up here, and what their lives looked like in the slow, steady rhythm of the Roman entertainment machine. Who were these women? So, female gladiators were not your average Roman citizens. In fact, they were never average in any way. Their backgrounds were messy, diverse, and sometimes surprisingly glamorous. Let's float through the possibilities. 1. Slaves. This is the one people often assume, and yes, some gladiatrices were enslaved. Captured in wars. Born into slavery. Sold because someone needed cash. Ancient Rome was basically the world capital of, oh, you can't pay your debts. Congratulations, you work here now. A few women ended up in gladiator schools because they had nowhere else to go, or because someone above them decided the arena was a better investment than, say, using them for household chores. 2. Criminals. Rome had a very dramatic sense of justice. If you annoyed the wrong person, or stole something, or insulted someone's goat, or just existed at the wrong moment, you might be sentenced to appear in the arena. Women criminals were rarer, but it did happen. These were the ones who basically got voluntold to fight. 3. Freed women. Now here's the twist. Some women actually chose this path. Freed women, former slaves who gained legal independence, sometimes became entertainers. Dancers, musicians, wrestlers, and occasionally, gladiators. Rome loved a good spectacle, and some women leaned into that, earning fame, money, and attention. Because if society already judged you for everything, you might as well pick something dramatic. 4. Upper-class women. And finally, yes, occasionally, elite Roman women stepped into the arena. Not for money, not for survival, but for thrill, rebellion, or the sheer joy of horrifying their families. Often quietly, at private events. Sometimes in public, which absolutely infuriated the Senate. There are written complaints from old men in togas basically going. Women fighting is disgraceful, immoral, embarrassing, and also somehow my personal problem. These are the women we'll float back to later, the ones who rattled Roman society by stepping into the sand despite having everything to lose. But for now, let's stay with the basics. Training, the slow, repetitive reality. Once a woman entered a gladiator school, a ludus, her life wasn't a wild action movie. It was slow. Repetitive. Physically exhausting. Emotionally draining. And surprisingly organized. The Roman Empire didn't do many things efficiently, but gladiator schools were run like well-oiled death machines. Let's wander through the training yard. Mornings. They started early. Before sunrise. The first hours were spent doing basic conditioning, running, jumping, swinging wooden swords. Wooden weapons were heavier than real ones, which was Rome's way of saying, if you can survive training, the arena will feel like a vacation. Diet. Despite the dramatic aura, gladiators had a famously boring diet. Mostly barley. Enough barley to make anyone question their life choices. Ancient writers literally called them barley men. So, yes, somewhere, there were also barley women. A very glamorous title. Weapons training. Female gladiators didn't have special categories. They trained with whatever style their body type or skill suited. Swords. Shields. Spears. Nets. Tridents. Daggers. Some fought lightly armored, others heavily. Many trained alongside men, using the same instructors, the same routines, and the same painfully predictable drills. Discipline. Oh yes, the schools were strict. You didn't just wander in and start swinging weapons. You had to follow rules. Obey the lanista, the owner or manager. Perform well. Learn slowly. Build stamina. The goal was not only to fight well, but to fight beautifully. Romans were picky. They didn't want a chaotic brawl. They wanted something theatrical, slow enough for spectators to follow, dramatic enough to keep them entertained, readable enough that even the drunkest citizen in the back row could understand who was winning. So a lot of training was basically: move slower. Look bigger. Hold the stance longer. Make it look impressive, but try not to die. A great combination. A typical day in the life of a gladiatrix. Let's drift gently through a day from start to finish, a real-time, slow-paced rhythm you might imagine if you stood quietly inside a Roman training ground. Sunrise. She wakes up in a shared barracks. The room is cramped, but not miserable. Gladiators weren't pampered, but they weren't treated like worthless prisoners either, they were investments. And Rome loved profit more than philosophy. She stretches. Wipes dust from her skin. Wraps leather straps around her wrists. Early drills. Outside, the air is cool. She joins a group, mostly men, a couple of other women. They jog in circles across the sand. The instructor watches with the emotional warmth of a door hinge. She practices footwork. Lunging. Blocking. Breathing evenly so she doesn't pass out later. Midday practice. Weapons now. She takes a wooden sword, heavy, unbalanced, and drills the same motion again and again. Strike. Withdraw. Shield up. Repeat. This goes on for hours. Some trainees collapse. Some keep going. She keeps going. Meals. Lunch is barley porridge with maybe a bean or two if the gods are merciful. Sometimes a bit of cheese. Sometimes nothing exciting whatsoever. Afternoons. Strategy practice. Learning how to read an opponent. Watching senior fighters demonstrate techniques. Practicing safe falls so if she ends up on the ground, she doesn't break anything essential. Evening. Bathhouse. Brief rest. Maybe someone plays a flute somewhere down the hall, the ancient world's version of background playlist music. Then sleep. Repeat. Day after day. Nothing fast. Nothing wild. Just slow, steady training, like the quiet rhythm of waves wearing down stone. Were female gladiators respected? Here's where Rome becomes Rome. The answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no, mostly no, but also occasionally yes. Very helpful. It depended entirely on social class, audience mood, location, politics, the cultural anxiety level of the Senate. Male gladiators already had a weird position in society, admired like rock stars, but also considered socially dirty because they entertained the masses with violence. Female gladiators? That just confused everyone. Some crowds loved them. Some elite men hated them. Some writers complained endlessly. Some artists carved them into relief sculptures celebrating their victories. But regardless of social opinions, the simple fact is that when they stepped into the arena, they held power. Attention. Control. For a brief moment, the entire amphitheater watched them. Even if it came with risks and judgment, it was a level of fame few women in Rome could ever achieve. Let's float toward the arena itself. Slowly. We'll save the actual arena performance for part 2, because that's a whole world in itself, the staging, the music, the matchups, the rules, the outcomes, and of course, what happened after they stepped out. In the next section, we'll drift through how female gladiator fights were organized. Whether they fought women or men. The slow, choreographed nature of Roman combat. What their armor really looked like. And the fascinating bronze relief of 2 gladiatrices who fought to a draw. But for now, let's settle here, in the quiet, dusty training yards of a world long gone, drifting into the arena, where the sand remembers everything. Approximate 1500 to 2000 words. Alright, let's settle back in. If you're lying down, maybe shift your pillow a little. If you're sitting, take a slow breath. Tonight we drift deeper, out of the training yard and into the calm, torchlit corridors beneath the arena. Because this is where our gladiatrix now walks. Slow steps. Bare feet on cool stone. Wooden sword in hand. Not for real combat yet, just practice. Just the familiar rhythm of a life that circles endlessly around the promise of applause and the possibility of never walking back out. Under the arena, a strange, quiet world. The Roman amphitheater looks chaotic from the stands, but beneath it, it's surprisingly peaceful. Narrow hallways. Storage rooms full of armor polished by half-asleep workers. Cells for animals. Holding areas for fighters. Down here, time feels slower. There's no audience yet, just water dripping somewhere, the muted thud of someone practicing footwork, and the low murmur of gladiators repeating the same routines, again and again. Our gladiatrix walks these halls often. She knows every corner. Every shadow. Every patch of worn stone. And she knows the entrance ramp that leads upward, to the arena's sand, though she hasn't stepped through it yet for a true match. Training bouts happen here, in the half-lit tunnels, where instructors correct every stance with the same enthusiasm one might reserve for reorganizing jars. It is repetitive, but it is familiar. Predictable. A slow life with a clear purpose, something not every Roman could say. How female gladiator fights were organized. Before we drift into the actual performances, let's float gently through the structure behind them. Because Rome, for all its chaos, adored organization almost as much as it adored being petty. Female gladiator fights, when they happened, usually fell into these categories. 1. Special attractions. Women didn't fight often, which made their appearances guaranteed crowd pleasers. Promoters would announce them days or even weeks in advance, promising something exotic, rare, or unusual. It was part marketing, part novelty, and part Roman obsession with anything that broke norms. 2. Paired fights. Most female gladiators fought other women. The idea of pairing them with skilled male fighters existed only in the fevered dreams of ancient gossip writers. In actual recorded events, the matchups were almost always female versus female, a controlled pairing meant to be entertaining, not suicidal. 3. Festival events. Many of these performances happened during festivals, public holidays when citizens weren't working, emperors wanted to look generous, and amphitheaters filled with people who probably hadn't showered since the last thunderstorm. 4. Private shows. Some wealthy Romans, especially those with slightly questionable taste, hosted private gladiator matches on their estates. Here, elite women sometimes fought. Out of boredom. Out of rebellion. Or because someone dared them. Which is honestly the most believable explanation. These events weren't as deadly. Sometimes they were even choreographed, more performance than real combat. But the public ones? Those had rules, sort of. Rules of engagement, calm, structured, surprisingly theatrical. Gladiator fights were not berserk brawls. Not in the calm, predictable world of Roman entertainment. They followed a structure meant to keep things dramatic but not chaotic. Here's how it usually flowed. 1. Opening walk. Each gladiatrix entered the arena slowly, deliberately, accompanied by music. Not loud music, more like rhythmic background noise played on flutes and drums. They walked in with their weapons and armor, showing everything clearly so the audience knew what kind of match this would be. Think of it like the world's oldest, sleepiest boxing weigh-in. 2. Salute. Gladiators often saluted the organizer, the editor. But the famous line, "We who are about to die salute you," didn't belong to gladiators, it was said by condemned prisoners forced into mass battles. Gladiators were too valuable to die en masse. Female gladiators weren't expected to shout anything dramatic. A simple gesture was enough. 3. Controlled combat. The pace of Roman combat was slow enough for spectators to admire. Lots of circling. Lots of testing moves. Lots of dramatic poses. You weren't supposed to end the fight fast, you were supposed to make it look good. Aesthetic violence. Stylish danger. Female gladiators followed the same rhythm. Deliberate. Measured. Predictable enough that the audience could follow the choreography. 4. Safety matters. Despite the reputation of gladiators dying constantly, most matches didn't end in death. At least, not for trained fighters. Female gladiators, being rare and expensive to train, were especially unlikely to be killed in the ring. They were investments, crowd favorites, special attractions. Rome loved entertainment, but it also loved profit. Dead fighters didn't bring future revenue. Armor. What did female gladiators actually wear? Let's glide into the wardrobe department, which, to be clear, wasn't an actual department. It was usually one tired man with a pile of metal, fabric, and leather straps. Surprisingly, female gladiators didn't fight in revealing outfits. This may disappoint modern illustrators who draw them in outfits that are essentially weaponized lingerie, but Rome wasn't that impractical. If you put someone in the arena with no armor, they usually died too quickly for the audience to enjoy the show. So, let's list the real armor, calmly and accurately. Helmets. Women used the same types as men, full face, bronze, heavy. No special designs. No decorative feathers exclusively for women. Just standard gladiator helmets that could turn a face into an anonymous warrior. Chest armor. Some wore protective coverings, others, especially lightweight fighters, wore minimal armor for mobility. Not as scandalous as Hollywood likes to pretend. More functional than fashionable. Shields. Rectangular, round, curved, depending on fighting style. These often covered half the body. Weapons. Women wielded short swords, curved blades, tridents, nets, spears, daggers. And yes, some female gladiators specialized in pairs, dual wielding for dramatic flair. Greaves and guards. Leg protection, arm protection, wrist guards made of leather or bronze. Practical. Standardized. Nothing gendered. Nothing particularly flashy. Just Roman. The famous relief, a calm, bronze snapshot of two women winning. Now, let's drift into one of the clearest pieces of evidence for female gladiators. The Halicarnassus relief. A small bronze carving showing two women fighters locked in combat. Their names are written. Amazon. Achillea. Because apparently the artist wanted to make a point about heroic mythological parallels. The important detail. The inscription says they fought to a draw. Both were awarded honor. Both were freed. This tells us a few things. Women were acknowledged as skilled fighters. They were not forced to die for spectacle. Their matches could end honorably, not fatally. They could win freedom, just like male gladiators. It's not a dramatic scene. No chaos. Just two armored figures standing in the quiet triumph of survival. Audience reactions, a mixed bag of excitement and judgment. Now let's drift into the stands, not during a wild cheer, but during one of those moments when the crowd murmurs softly, reacting to something unusual. Female gladiators excited people. And confused them. And occasionally horrified the more conservative citizens, who thought women fighting was a sign that society was falling apart. Basically, Rome's version of every generation believing the next generation has ruined the world. Audience reactions ranged from thrilled. People enjoyed novelty. Female fights were rare, exciting, and fun to talk about at dinner parties, assuming your food wasn't stolen by someone's pet monkey. Curious. Many spectators had never seen women fight before. Some probably attended events mainly out of curiosity. Judgmental. Writers like Juvenal and Seneca complained loudly about women fighting. Not because it was dangerous, Rome loved danger, but because it felt like a violation of the social order. If a woman could fight, what else might she do next? Read? Vote? Do anything independently? Terrifying. Respectful. Some left inscriptions praising female fighters. They admired their courage, skill, and athleticism. Even in a patriarchal society, talent was hard to ignore. What was the atmosphere like? Let's sink into a low-energy, candlelit visualization. A crowd gathers slowly. Women in simple tunics. Men in worn cloaks. Vendors selling nuts, olives, and bread. Children climbing up the steps despite being told not to. The day is warm. The air smells like dust and baked stone. And somewhere, a musician plays a soft, repetitive tune as part of the opening ceremony. Our gladiatrix waits behind a gate, breathing evenly. Not panicking. Just preparing. This isn't war, it's performance. When her turn comes, she steps forward. The crowd leans in. Not roaring, just murmuring, curious, unsure what to expect. The gate opens. She walks into the sunlight. The sand shifts beneath her feet. No one shouts just yet. The match begins with a quiet circle, the slow dance of reading an opponent, the rhythm of a system designed not to shock, but to entertain, steadily, predictably, with the kind of controlled pacing that makes even danger feel ritualistic. And this is how it went, methodical, rehearsed, almost meditative. A strange place for a woman to find power. A stranger place for her to find fame. When the fight ends, the quiet shift back to reality. A gladiator match, even for women, almost never ended in chaos. Not if the fighters were trained, valuable, or part of the roster for future events. The goal wasn't death, it was entertainment. Smooth, theatrical, profitable entertainment. Let's picture the final moments of a typical match. The crowd murmurs, not roars. The fighters slow their movements, circling one last time. One acknowledges the other's skill with a subtle gesture, a tap of the shield, a slight nod. The editor signals the end. Music resumes softly. And just like that, it's over. No dramatic execution. No frantic finale. Just an ending that flows as calmly as the beginning. Then comes the part history books rarely describe, the cooldown. Leaving the arena, a slow walk back to the shadows. Once the match ends, our gladiatrix walks back through the same archway she entered, but now the sunlight feels different. Softer. Less glaring. Or maybe it's just the relief settling over her shoulders. She steps onto the stone ramp leading downward. The noise of the crowd fades behind her. The sand sticks to her feet. Her helmet feels heavier now, like the weight of a long day finally catching up. As she reaches the quiet corridors beneath the amphitheater, the atmosphere shifts. No more music. Just steady breathing. Calm footsteps. Maybe a few faint cheers echoing from the next match beginning above. Medical care, slow bandages, herbal liniments, and someone complaining quietly. Yes, gladiators had medical care. Better than most Romans, actually. Because if you're an investment, people want you to stay alive. The doctors, called medici, weren't miracle workers, but they were experienced. Gladiator wounds were predictable. Blunt trauma, shallow cuts, bruised muscles, maybe a sprain or a cracked rib. A typical post-fight medical session looked something like this. Wash wounds with warm water. Dab on herbal salves. Roman pharmacies specialized in potions that smelled like mint mixed with disappointment. Wrap everything in linen. Recommend rest. Tell you not to do anything strenuous. Watch you do something strenuous anyway within 24 hours. Female gladiators received the same care as men. Rome wasn't sentimental, but it was practical. A healthy fighter meant more revenue. Weapons returned, armor set aside. After medical care, she removes her armor. Helmet first, leaving sweaty hair flattened into something resembling ancient helmet hair fashion. Arm guards. Greaves. Shield. Sword. Everything gets carried off by attendants who are definitely underpaid and definitely tired. The weapons will be cleaned. The armor will be repaired. And she, for the first time in hours, can finally breathe like a normal human. Resting, the slowest part of being a gladiatrix. Rome didn't let fighters relax forever, but rest was part of the routine. Some gladiatrices returned to their barracks. Some soaked in the bathhouse. Some sat in quiet corners, staring at the wall while contemplating Rome's questionable life choices. But all of them felt the same combination of adrenaline fading. Muscles trembling. Relief washing over. Hunger waking up. Exhaustion settling in. For a moment, life is simple. You survive today. You'll worry about tomorrow. Gladiator fame, slow, unexpected, and often uncomfortable. Now here's something people forget. Gladiators were celebrities. Not philosophers. Not emperors. Not revered poets. But celebrities in the "your face is on a souvenir cup and random strangers want to talk to you about your fight" kind of way. Even female gladiators, rare as they were, gathered attention. People would look at them with admiration. Whisper about them. Gossip. Argue over who had better technique. Carve their names into graffiti. Imitate their fighting stances. Some fans followed them between events. Some offered gifts. Some wrote very dramatic poetry that definitely wasn't requested. Imagine being half exhausted from your match and someone shouting across the street. Amazon was better last time. Ancient Rome, the original sports fan civilization. Daily life between matches, quiet, predictable, almost meditative. Let's drift into her daily life, the spaces between the fights. Most of her time is not spent in dramatic combat. It's spent in training, resting, eating, recovering, listening to instructors shout things like left foot, doing chores around the ludus, and participating in drill routines that feel like slow-motion dancing. A gladiator school operated on rhythm. Wake. Train. Eat. Train. Bathe. Sleep. Over and over. It was demanding, but also strangely structured, something reliable in a world that was often chaotic. For many women, especially those who had been slaves or criminals, the predictability offered a strange kind of calm. What happened if they won? Winning wasn't about glory. It was about survival, payment, better food, improved living conditions, future opportunities. Female gladiators didn't win treasure chests or golden laurel crowns. Their rewards were practical, quiet things. Extra rations. Personal grooming items. Slightly nicer clothing. Better bedding. Occasional coins. Recognition among peers. Some even gained enough fame to be invited to private shows by wealthy patrons, lucrative, controlled events with minimal risk. Winning meant security. And security was priceless in ancient Rome. What happened if they lost? Losing wasn't a death sentence. Unless you were a criminal condemned to die, which most female gladiators were not. A typical loss meant injury, embarrassment, ribbing from fellow fighters, a few days off, and a slow recovery. The slow recovery mattered more than anything, it kept the entire ludus functioning. Rome was unrealistic in many things, but when it came to economics, it understood the value of a functioning workforce. Retirement, yes, female gladiators could retire. Here's something that surprises people. Female gladiators could retire. Not all, but many. Retirement happened when they fought long enough. They earned enough. They pleased the editor of the games. Or they won freedom. Retired gladiatrices often became instructors, assistants in the ludus, performers in non-lethal exhibitions, bodyguards for wealthy women, tavern owners, merchants, or simply free citizens living quietly. Some married. Some had children. Some disappeared into the normal population, the arena becoming a strange dream from long ago. A woman who once faced roaring crowds could end up selling olives in a peaceful marketplace. Life moved on. Slowly. Softly. The ban, when Rome finally said, "No more women in the arena." Eventually, female gladiators annoyed enough senators that they were banned. Not violently. Not suddenly. Just, quietly. In 200 CE, Emperor Septimius Severus issued a decree. Women were forbidden to perform in the arena. No more novelty acts. No more elite women sneaking into private arenas. No more gladiatrices. Why? Because Rome was anxious about moral decay. Again. One senator wrote something equivalent to women performing in the arena threatens the dignity of the entire empire. Quite an overreaction, but Rome loved dramatic overreactions. And so, with one quiet law, female gladiators faded into history. The amphitheaters continued. The male fighters continued. The crowds continued. But the women? Their stories softened, blurred, and eventually melted into legend. The arena forgets, but the sand remembers. As our gladiatrix walks the stone corridors one last time, helmet under her arm, steps slow and steady, the world above her changes. New emperors rise. New laws pass. The games shift. The sands get replaced, grain by grain. Her footprints vanish. But history leaves traces in odd places. An inscription here. A bronze relief there. A complaint from a grumpy poet. A whispered memory. And piece by piece, long after Rome falls silent, the truth remains. Yes, women fought in the arena. Not often. Not loudly. But enough to leave a mark. A quiet one. A rare one. A strangely powerful one.